Welcome to the Running Out of Talent podcast presented by the S&B Cup Series. My name is Thomas Fisher, and I'm here tonight with Brockton Packard and Robbie Sherwood. On tonight's agenda, we have just a section for open mic. We're going to chat about what we did during the week in the world of iRacing. We're also going to talk about, we're also going to have a segment called System in Service, which is going to be about the recent iRacing update. We're a few weeks into that now, so we're going to have a little chat about what that is and our thoughts on that. And then finally, we're going to have a little segment where we talk about what's going on in real life in motorsport, our opinions on certain topics that are going on both in the road of oval racing and the world of road racing. So, hello, boys.
How's it going? First episode, super excited about it. As Thomas mentioned, my name is Brockton Packard. In the world of iRacing, I run the S&B Cup Series, the Adrenaline iRacing League, for a team called Shadow Racing, which I co-own. I drive the number 24 Shadow Racing Ancient NASCAR Titan Lusoff Chevy Camaro most of the time, and I'm super excited to be on the podcast with you guys.
Yeah, as Thomas said, my name is Robbie Sherwood. I primarily run the NASCAR ovals on iRacing, usually running the 29 Chevrolet. Currently sponsored by Realtree and Appalachian Holler Hunters. I primarily run in the league that I co-own at S&B, and occasionally run in the Adrenaline League, as well as official races here and there.
Yeah, so as I said myself, my name is Thomas Fisher. I'm primarily an endurance racer for the team SCWVRE Racing, alongside two of my teammates. So I run endurance races, so 6, 12, 24-hour races is mainly what I run. I run the SCW Endurance and GT.com Dallara P217. So guys, what have you been up to this week?
I mean, I can start. I'm also a spotter for a couple guys, DJ Daniels and his JKRM number 96 Camaro. We ran a couple races today, or actually yesterday, Friday, at Bristol. I've been running the Legends Racing League as well. We ran at Michigan, got a top 3 in Michigan, and then tomorrow, Sunday, is the Adrenaline League, and we go to Homestead, so that should be interesting.
Honestly, I'm going to keep my segment short and sweet. The last time that I really ran on the sim was probably about 3 weeks ago when we were doing recruitment races for the S&B Cup Series. Believe we ran Daytona and a few mile and a half, so I believe Kansas, Charlotte, and I'm trying to remember what the third one was.
I'm just going to start firing some off. Michigan, Las Vegas, Chicagoland.
Vegas. There you go.
Vegas,
It was Las Vegas. Correct. There you go. Sorry. Like I said, it's been a few weeks. I've gotten kind of caught up in home renovations, so I haven't had as much seat time as I had prior to. But yeah, trying to get back more into it this week.
Yeah, I mean, I've done one ILMS race, and it's not called ILMS anymore. What's it called? ESS. I don't get why iRacing keeps changing its series names, but yeah, the European Sprint Series. I've done one race in that in my Dallara. It's at Monza. Started last because I didn't qualify, because attempting to qualify at Monza is a bad idea, and ended up finishing third. Just drove a pretty nice race through the field. Got lucky with some traffic. Made a couple 3 wide moves around the outside of Parabolica. So yeah, no, pretty nice. I've also been doing quite a lot of practice for the Nürburgring 24-hour coming up in 2 weeks' time, actually. So that's been pretty fun.
Nordschleife just seems like hell to me. I don't think I could ever do that.
Well, as Jackie Stewart said, it is the green hell. I have done it once before. I did it last year.
How did you guys do that year? Do you remember?
Well, we're in a different class this year. We're in GT3, and last year I was running with a different team. We were in GT4. I think we ran a total of 146 laps, something like that.
That's wild.
But we had some unfortunate circumstances which led to us spending over 2 hours in the pits. We still ended up finishing third somehow, which unfortunately remains my best ever finish in an endurance event, mainly due to bad luck not caused by us. Oh well, it happens. It's endurance racing, but no, I mean, I think the biggest challenge though with the Nordschleife is it's 170 corners on the Gesundheike. So, it's 170 corners, and you have to get 170 corners right for 24 hours. And any mistake, you touch the grass and you spin, because so many of those sections are such high speed, like over the Flugplatz. If you mess up over the Flugplatz, you're hitting the curb and you are going in the air. And at that point, it's just all over for you.
Yeah, I can't imagine. You got to learn all the corners, and then you got to perfect all of them, and that's wild.
Well, I mean, this year I do have a slight advantage over what I had last year. Last year I only had one leg at 100%. So, I mean, this year the other leg's almost at 100. So, should be pretty good. Actually, wait, Rob, have you ever done it? I don't know about you. Have you ever done any endurance events?
I have not. I think my goal for next year is to get my road license up to an A, so that way I can do the 24 hours of endurance at Daytona. Just because I find it fascinating, I really do. I don't have much experience with road racing, and to be honest with you, in the grand scheme of things, not a lot of experience on the server itself. I just joined probably last May, once the COVID restrictions really hit. So I'm still learning a lot of things, but one thing that I am interested in and I find fascinating is the endurance racing. A couple of the guys from our league, SMB, have actually asked me to join them next year possibly. The goal had been this year, but we got really behind with the league and finding some other things. But that's honestly, I think if I had a goal for the next year, it's to get that road license up, because endurance racing is something that I would love to give a shot, just to see how it goes.
Yeah, there's always a saying that's this is always something I've always said with when it comes to endurance racing, is that in order to get the true endurance racing experience, you have to be willing to sleep on the floor. I slept on the floor for the Daytona 24 hour. Actually, I slept exactly where I'm sat now. I slept on the floor on a little blow up mattress with my PC right next to me for heat, and I live in Canada, so I think that weekend it was minus 34 outside, something like that.
So I'm curious what your experience with it was. What the first time that you did it, I mean, what were you feeling going into the Rolex 24 at Daytona?
Oh, I mean, it was absolutely manic. I mean, you're putting in, thousands. I think I must have put in, almost nearly 1,000 laps of practice. Going into it, and you don't know what to expect, because you can say, hey, I've put in, let's just say for argument's sake, 750 laps, but you say, hold on, what if this guy who's going to be in the car next to me has put in 1,000 laps? So your main goal is just to be more prepared than the guy next to you. And we had a really, really unfortunate time. We ended up finishing. So we were fighting for the lead 4 hours in. We were easily the fastest car. We just got buggered with traffic. But then, going through the chicane, we had a GT spin, hit the wall, and just keep his foot in it, and pulled right onto the middle of the track sideways, and just slammed his brakes on in the middle of the chicane, right as we were coming through, and we just collected him. So we went 8 laps down. I think we were 22nd or something, with 20 hours to go, and then we drove it back, and we ended up finishing 4th at the line.
Wow!
So it was a best
comeback.
Yeah, it was probably the best race I've ever ran in endurance racing. It was absolutely crazy. But at the end of the day, we just got hit with some bad luck. We were looking at the times afterwards, and we were saying to ourselves, that was our race. We gained back some 4 laps on the leaders throughout the race. And, we were like, well, if we hadn't been hit by that GTE, then we would have been 4 laps ahead of the leaders.
Yeah.
But, that's just endurance racing. You can't get into the shoulda, woulda, couldas. If not, you're just going to end up, downing yourself and getting into a pretty high low.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the frustrating thing that you'll occasionally run into that I've seen. I did see a few clips from the 24, the Rolex, where whether it be guys that felt like they had been wronged by somebody else on the track, or just guys being underprepared. Several clips of going down into that first corner, and a guy just drove straight through the side of him, and your race is ruined at that point.
Oh yeah, I mean, we had that happen. Well, we didn't get hit by it because luckily at this point we become pro idiot avoiders. Well, except for the English chicane.
Have to.
Yeah, no, I mean that is that's the thing. When you join iRacing, especially when you're in like the rookie series or something, you have to remember, in order to win, first you have to finish.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, finishing is not always something that can be on your side. You know, that's the thing, is that when you're sim racing, you have to be fully aware of your surroundings. So, you know, whenever I glance, because I'm in VR, so whenever I glance into my mirror and I see a car closing on me pretty quickly, your first reaction should not be, I'm still going to go for this corner. It should be, I'm getting the hell out of the way and letting him hit the wall. So, you know, I mean, you just got to get out of the way. Yeah, you know, it happened to us a few times where we broke for turn one, and a GTE, who were supposed to break earlier than we do, broke later than me from behind me.
Oof.
And I mean, I think I must have gone 50 meters wide to the right just to avoid him, and he ended up careening into the wall, and that was his race over. But yeah, I mean, endurance racing, it is the best feeling in the world, if you ask me, because, you know, it's pushing yourself to the limit. And I think the only thing that, when it comes to sim racing, that could be harder is, I don't even know, I mean, maybe racing is the pros, because I mean, there's no secret, I'm not a pro. I'm not fast enough to be a pro. I wish I was, but I'm not. So you just kind of have to live with that. But yeah, no, I mean, you're getting in the car, and you have to get in the car with the mentality of saying, I'm getting in this car for the next 3 hours. It's 2 a.m. I'm not even going to, by the time I get out of the car, it's not going to be sunlight yet. I'm sleep deprived. I haven't had anything to eat in 6 hours. You know, it's something. It really is something.
Yeah, I think sim racing is definitely one thing that I would like to try too. It's just getting up to that level of performance, and it's tough, man. And I commend you and all your teammates and everybody you run with to even get to that level of just precision driving. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think there's a really nice clip that exists somewhere of someone doing a lap at at Daytona, and it is just perfect. And he did that for an hour and a half straight. You know, and it's mental, because you're looking at it and you're going, how is he that precise? And you just have to realize, this guy is good. You know, he's better than me. He's done probably 6 times as many laps as I've done on this track. But you know, you have to. And you know, when I look at myself, you know, in the race, I think the fastest time I set was in the LMP2 car was a 33.6, 33.5, something like that. And then I look at the pros, and their fastest lap is a 33.8 or something. I'm just looking at it going, how the hell did you get that time out of the car? I mean, you just you get used to it, and you just got to do it. You know, at the end of the day, you're fighting the guys next to you, not the guys in the next split.
Yeah, man, I think super cool. I think that's why this podcast is going to be so different. We've got 3 different guys that run 3 very different styles of racing and very different cars and all kinds of stuff. But now let's dive into Season 2's build. Lots of stuff came out this year. And with Season 2 coming, we got a couple new things, a couple new road things. Tom, why don't you tell them about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the quite obvious one is Hockenheim. Now, I never bought Hockenheim because it's not a track I necessarily like. Because I come from a background of the F1 games. The first, pretty much the first racing game I ever played was F1 2010, which came out, oh blimey, almost 11 years ago now. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that makes me feel old all of a sudden. So, and then pretty much since I played 2010, 2011, 2016, 2018, and 2020. And on 2 of those games, there was Hockenheim. Man, Hockenheim is something else. I mean, it's not my style of track. It's just, you know, it's not at all. But it's a track which I understand why people like it. You know, I was having a chat with some of the guys I know who have owned it, or who do own it, sorry, and they say, they like it as a track. I think iRacing's done a damn good job of bringing it in. But honestly, I don't think Hockenheim should have been the next European track they should have brought in.
So, in your opinion, what should have been the next track?
Honestly, I was really hoping they would rescan Zandvoort, or at least give us the option of having the old or the new layout of it. Well, I say layout with the new modifications on it. Even with that, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Well, the tracks would have been nice. I know there are some pretty, there's Portimao. I think Portimao and iRacing would be something else, because it just has that undulation. It would be so challenging to have. And, Portimao, it's not, obviously it's only F1 circuit this year, but it's not an incredibly massive track. It doesn't have the budgets of somewhere like Spa. So, I don't think it would be too much of a pain for iRacing to go scan that.
Yeah, I think the more road stuff we get, I think the better, because it kind of gets oval guys like Robbie and I into the road era and into those kind of cars. But moving on to more of our world, Robbie and I. Robbie, we've done some plate tracks in both SMB and a couple other series. Why don't you talk about the new plate track plate package with the Cup cars?
So obviously the season 2 build was dynamic track. Places like Kansas, Las Vegas, Homestead, different places like that, you can run different lines. But side drafting in this build is more than it was in the past, which can be a good thing and can be a bad thing, especially as you run into official lobbies. I think you're going to see people try it. You're going to see more accidents. A lot of the real life Cup drivers have said that they did not like this package very much. And until I tried it, I didn't understand fully what they meant. This package is just, it is tough. It is tough to do anything. And to be honest with you, it almost feels like we've gone back to the tandem days. From the experience I've had so far, I find myself running better with one car versus in a constant pack. I don't know if that's a common theme to other people. From what I've talked to guys that I know, it is. But that's the big thing that I've noticed is the Cup cars. I miss the old package right now. Maybe I'll get used to it. Maybe I won't. But right now, I am not enjoying the tandem drafting. Maybe I'll get to a spot where I can enjoy the side draft a little bit more. I think that can be good if people use it right. However, the one thing I've learned on this service so far is you've got to be able to trust the people around you. And unless I drive with them on a regular basis, I do not trust the people around me.
Yeah, I've had that issue. Like, I haven't tried the new package yet. But in the old package, I used to do quite a lot of side drafting because my main tactic, because I'm not, as I said, I'm not an oval guy. So whenever I'm doing some Cup driving, I'm sort of sat there. I'm like, oh, well, okay. If I go close to this guy, I have speed. But I forget the fact that oftentimes, as a road racer, I expect, a lot more. I don't want to say precision, but you know what I mean. Like, obviously, as you're going into a corner in a road car, it's a lot easier to control what the car is going to do than it is, say, when you're moving onto the banking of an oval, especially somewhere like Charlotte, for instance, where Charlotte, sometimes you can go up the track, sometimes you can go down the track, you're not really sure. So yeah, my issue was I was always like, okay, I'm going to make myself predictable, and this guy is going to be predictable as well. But then oftentimes you'd realize, you'd go, oh, wait, hold on. He's hopping up and down the racetrack. He can't hold his line. And then at that point, that's when accidents happen.
Yeah.
So I think sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say that the best example I can think of for this in particular, Brockton and I ran a league race with ARL, I think the week before they changed this package. And a lot of times you'd find yourself running in anywhere from 5 to 10 single car lines. And going into the corner, you'll see guys moving around a lot because once you get to that spoiler behind the car in front of you, you really have a hard time seeing where your entry point is into the corner. So once you can get the guy in front of you to understand, hey, give me a little bit off the bottom so that way I can see, it kind of helps things. But as to where you could pull up on the car before you or behind, or pull up on the car in front of you and go about 75% throttle, maybe even 60 to 65, and be okay, immediately pull back up to that car. Now, when you do that, you hit that wall of air and you lose 4, 5, 6 car lengths. And then you get that big run on the car in front of you, but you don't have anybody behind you. So it's almost like you're just sitting in traffic. It's so difficult to pass with this new build.
It's weird because you're, like you said, behind somebody and it stops. You're coming off of turn 2 in Talladega where big runs normally happen, and you get to the bumper about a foot off and it just stops. And I think we're kind of going back to the tandem age, like you were saying. I definitely agree that with 2 cars, it feels faster than 1. I know that I ran a Talladega or Daytona race, one of those 2, and there was 2 cars on the bottom, myself and someone else, versus a line of 5 cars on the top, and just the 2 cars could get 3 or 4 spots just pushing down the backstretch. And then you go into the side draft, which on iRacing, netcode's always a super big thing. I think the only thing I don't like about that package is that you have to side draft to do anything. If you're alone, you have to side draft to pull the car back, etc. I think that's going to cause so many more wrecks just by people either not being predictable, as Thomas has said, or netcode. Netcode's always been a struggle.
Yeah.
I think now we should move on to the update, which I think has become sort of the elephant in the room when it comes to oval racing, and that's Bristol Dirt.
Oof.
Now, I did run some laps of Bristol Dirt, and I have to say, I want my money back. I already own Bristol, but just give me the money back from the dirt part. I don't want the dirt. Just don't give me the dirt. It's so bad. I used to be able to get a little sideways on it, and then they added the dirt tires, and now all of a sudden it's just sort of like, oh, you wanted grip? Here, have some.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the whole idea of NASCAR on dirt is to have no grip and to just be drifting that thing.
Yeah. I ran, I believe, probably 20 to 25 laps in a test session before they put the dirt tires on. I have not run it since then. However, guys that I trust immensely that have dirt experience have told me it's literally like you're driving Bristol, traditional Bristol on dirt now. There's just, you don't have to worry about sliding into the corner. You can control the car. And I feel like that was the opposite of what they were going for. And obviously, I'm not going to get onto my soapbox because I don't like the idea of Bristol Dirt anyway, being a traditional oval guy, but that's neither here nor there. I don't know. Bryton, you said you've had a little bit more experience there?
Yeah, so the week Bristol Dirt came out, the original Bristol Dirt without the dirt tires, I had a league race for the Legends Racing League. We switched it from traditional Bristol to dirt Bristol. I was kind of like, I don't know about it. Then we ran it, and it was, I don't know how long it was, 80, 90 laps maybe. And, you would dive it into the corner, and it would slide up the track. You would get sideways. It felt like you were running a modified. It was fun. I enjoyed it. It converted me into a dirt guy. I enjoyed running that track. Then they announced that the Invitational was going to Bristol Dirt, and then iRacing went, oh, let's add dirt tires to the Cup cars. And that's when everything changed for me. You dove into it like you would normally do, and it would feel like it would hit the splitter and it would go straight towards the wall. I don't know if it was the dirt tires, if the setup was weird. And then I gave it another week, they fixed it again, and it felt worse the third time. You would have to go full lock to the left just to get it to turn into the corner, and you would have to go full throttle for, 20, 30 laps for it to start to wear enough that it would kind of get sideways. So in my opinion, I think they really miss out on an opportunity to make this a really fun track. They shouldn't have fixed it because they fixed it and they broke it even more than it kind of was. And I think they should give us the option to run slicks or the dirt tires, because I thought it was fun without the dirt.
Yeah, no, without the dirt tires, it was fun, but with the dirt tires, I mean, as you said, it feels like you're going straight up towards the wall. And I think, as you said, in order to get the thing to turn on dirt tires, you have to crank the wheel all the way over. And I think in that way, they're going to lose a lot of guys who traditionally run road, because I traditionally run road. I have a direct drive wheel with a custom build Audi R8 GT3 rim. Now this rim is open top, so it looks like this, right? And the issue with that is the fact that when I go to turn the wheel more than 180 degrees, it means at that point I have to take one hand off the steering wheel. If I get tapped in any way, shape, or form, I cannot save the car because I don't know if I'm about to grab the steering wheel or if I'm about to get my hand whacked off by one of the ends. So I think that anyone who has a Formula style rim as I do, they're going to lose them. They're going to lose them from the oval scene completely, because they're going to go, well, okay, if you guys are going to keep making it worse, then what's the point in us running it?
Yeah, and I think with you guys have a different style of wheel. Our stuff, if it had the normal degrees of banking as Bristol did, I think it wouldn't be as bad. But since they added the dirt, it has less banking. You have to. It's just weird. It's not Bristol. It doesn't feel like Bristol.
It feels, it goes from less being like the Lost Coliseum or whatever they call it, to now being, essentially just something which, when you see it coming up in official sessions, you go, oh, again, really? It's not some, when I think of Bristol, the first thing I think of is, I think it was Brad Keselowski in 2000 and whatever, calling Kyle Busch an ass. Bristol's the place where there should be action, and I want that to be in the sim. And I like running Bristol, like Asphalt Bristol. I like it. I ran it in the Champions Racing League. I ran it in there, and it was fun. I got completely screwed over in it, but it was fun, and I enjoyed it. And now they added dirt to it, and you go, oh yeah, I want to feel that same level of fun. And in fact, it should be more fun, because all of a sudden you have no grip. I'm all the time, like, I'm the type of guy who likes to slide the rear of the car around. I like doing that. It feels fun. It makes me feel like I'm on the edge of the grip, which I am. And then for them to make something which should be incredibly fun and make it incredibly boring and make no one want to run it, just seems as if they've shot themselves in the foot a bit.
Yeah, and I think that's the shame about it, because, and I don't know if this is just my opinion or not, but to me, Bristol is the most fun short track because
I agree.
of the high
Yeah, I agree.
speeds and the high bankings. I feel like you said, Thomas, they really missed an opportunity to make this even more enjoyable with the dirt. And there's a reason I didn't go anywhere near the official sessions, and I said, okay, well, I want to try the Bristol dirt, but I'm going to run a test session. I had no interest in running it in a race, partly because I was unsure about it, but then partly, honestly, because of the feedback that I got was just, it wasn't enjoyable.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I ran, I think, a C fixed, and normally the trucks are sliding. There's like no weight in the back, so they kind of just do whatever they want. But it was very stuck. It was almost tight, and then add on 30-ish other C-Class drivers, and you got a recipe for a lot of wrecks, and that's what we had. It was, I'd say, 80% pacing, and then, like 5-10 laps at the end where you got a green flag run. And I think I've always loved Bristol. Bristol, I feel like it's such a driver's track. You have to be on there's no relaxing during Bristol. It's always go. You can't sometimes you can't lay back. If there's a wreck in front of you, you're just going to have to hope and pray that you get through it, because you're going so fast. There's no time to hit the brakes. It's just one of those tracks that scares you to death, but it's just the most fun thing you've ever done. And with Bristol Dirt, they kind of took that out. You can hit the brakes and it slows down. And I don't know. I just think when they put the dirt tires on, it killed the whole track.
I'm with you there. Yeah, I think we should move on from this. I think we've pretty much given all our opinions on that. Let's move a bit more into the real world of motorsport, because we're not here only to cover the esports side. We also want to talk a little bit about the real life side. And the first thing I'd like to talk about is the controversy from the Bahrain F1 race 2 weeks ago. Or 2 weekends ago, I should say.
Thomas, why don't you let everybody know, because some people might not know. So what happened in Bahrain?
Yeah, so there was a fight for the lead between Red Bull's Max Verstappen and Mercedes's Lewis Hamilton. And the big controversy behind it was that when Max Verstappen overtook Lewis Hamilton, he went off the track, and no one's going to argue he went off the track. We could see clearly all four wheels over the white line. However, Lewis Hamilton, and then Max Verstappen, was forced to let Lewis Hamilton back through, and then that's what ended up costing him the win because he couldn't get back through. Now, the big issue came when people started remarking that, hold on, Lewis Hamilton continuously, I think it was every lap for something like 27 laps of this race. It was only a 56 lap race, something like that. About half of it, just a little bit under, every time at that same corner, turn for right-hander, he was going off the track and further than Max Verstappen went to overtake him. And a lot of fans were not happy with the fact that Max Verstappen was punished for him going off track, but Lewis Hamilton got away scot-free with gaining. It's a couple tenths a lap doing that. I run league races in the F1 games, and whenever I went off track there, I was gaining 4/10 of a second, 5/10 of a second, just because we take that much more speed through the corner. Fans were like, well, hold on, how is that fair? The fact that Lewis Hamilton could have gained, let's say in total over every time that he's done it, he's gained probably a few seconds doing it. And now Max Verstappen does it once, and all of a sudden, everyone's got their knickers in a twist.
So how does F1 fix this? I know for years it's been a huge controversy on track limits, and it's been through all road series, through IndyCar, MotoGP, IMSA. Track limits have been such a topic. How do we make the track safer for the drivers, and also the track limits more, I guess, stingy on how they're used?
I think that actually what they did last year at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit for the Eiffel Grand Prix was a great idea. It was I'm trying to do this in my head, turn four or five. Anyway, it's a right-hander, and there's where the 24-hour layout connects to it. There's a big piece of tarmac there, which, to go out there is incredibly faster. It's quite a tight corner. And, the steward said, hey, in the race, you have 3 chances to go out there. If you go out there 3 chances, if you go out there 3 times, you get a penalty. Right? They're going to say, oh yeah, mistakes are going to happen. So I think the best idea is to have something like that for every corner. You say, look, this is where the limit is. We acknowledge mistakes occasionally happen, okay, but they have to be fair on everyone. And I get it. Lewis Hamilton, he's just been knighted by the Queen. He's a 7-time world champion. He holds pretty much every record in the book. Okay, but at the end of the day, if you want your sport to remain popular, which let's admit it, right now it's pretty popular as a sport, you have to make sure that you're fair on everyone. You treat everyone equally. You can't say, oh, you've gone off track once, here, have a penalty, but you've gone off track 25 times, stop it. You can't, that's not something you can do as a governing organization, such as the FIA. The FIA is the governing organization for road course racing.
So do you think in the F1 sector, the FIA has kind of favoritism towards certain drivers or even certain teams, or do you think, I know that an oval guy looking at F1, they go, well, it's just the same 3 people racing for the win every time because it's whoever has the most money wins. But do you think, as an F1 fan, do you see favoritism towards another driver against another driver?
I have to say that quite often it feels like there is. So I'm just going to say, for instance, at the end of the 2019 season, there was a controversy surrounding Ferrari's engine. Mm-hmm. They said, a lot of other teams said, hold on, that could be illegal. They're going so much faster than us down in the straight line, and we don't think that's entirely legal. And typically there would be an open investigation about it, and all the other teams would be able to know what's going on. But no, just for Ferrari, the FIA basically did a backroom deal. Ferrari paid some money, and then the whole thing was dropped. The whole thing was closed. And I still don't know what was wrong with the engine. Whereas I should be allowed to know what's wrong with the engine as a fan. So I think that, in a way, yes, there's always going to be favoritism, but we're humans. We're always going to favorite someone, no matter the situation. No one's completely impartial, whether it's based on stereotype history with a certain driver, whatever. So I think that a lot of times Max Verstappen and same in this circumstance. He's been on the short end of the stick, and I have to say, one driver who I can almost compare Max Verstappen to sometimes is Carl Edwards in NASCAR. Constantly, it seems like he's just constantly getting hammered with whatever. And, sometimes you can see the fact that it gets to him. I mean, he's a young guy. I mean, by the time he was my age, he was already in F1. I'm 17 years old, and he was already in F1. And, the FIA did not like that. And, the year after they put a rule in place saying, which basically you had to be at least 18 and you had to have a certain, they introduced a super license just so there couldn't be another Max Verstappen. So I think Max Verstappen is naturally always going to be, always going to get the short end of the stick. And that's what it feels like as an F1 fan.
Kind of reminds me of if Junior Johnson continued to be a race car driver and stopped being a crew chief, because he always made the sanctioning body make rules. So I think Verstappen's, I don't think politics belong in racing. It's just, it gets muddy.
Absolutely not.
But yeah.
Robbie, you got anything for that?
It's, I guess I'm curious, in your opinion as a fan, do you think the track limits thing is this? I want to relate it to the yellow line rule in NASCAR. However, I know the yellow line rule in NASCAR is more of a safety issue more than a competition issue. Do you believe that the track limits issue with F1 is a safety versus a competition, or do you think it's a competition issue?
I think it's a little bit of both, because at the end of the day, we have a racetrack. It's a set racetrack, and based on where that white line is, because obviously with the speeds you're going into a corner at, there has to be a certain amount of runoff before there's a wall. And that runoff has to have, some sort of slowing down mechanism, whether it's gravel or whatever Paul Ricard has its, weird sticky strips or whatever they're called, and so I think, yes, it's a safety concern, because obviously if you're extending a corner by 10 meters, then that's 10 meters less runoff you have to slow the car down for an impact.
Right.
And, we've seen the safety in all forms of motorsport has improved massively. I mean, I can't remember the last NASCAR driver to die was Earnhardt, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So, NASCAR is incredibly safe now. Yeah. F1 as well is incredibly safe. But unfortunately, because of, these cars are literally built around the drivers.
Yes.
At certain points, there are going to be failures on the cars. We saw it with Antoine Hubert. Antoine Hubert was tragically killed at Spa in 2019. He was one of my heroes. I looked up to him. He was a driver who, he fought for everything he got. And, I looked up to him. And then all of a sudden, I go, wait, hold on, he's dead? But that was because, he got hit 3 times. I think his monocoque got hit 3 times. Yeah. So, and I think that in that way, the track limits are a safety issue, because at the same time, we don't want another Antoine Hubert incident. Yeah. No, we don't want that. And I think the only way, and if you hit a wall going, let's just say for argument's sakes, 160 mile an hour, 160 mile an hour to 0 in 2 meters.
Yeah.
That's a force.
Yeah.
No one's going to argue that is a hell of a force you've just put through your body.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's possible that if the speeds are too great, and the monocoque will fail, and that's it.
And I think just in the past 2 years since that incident, there have been some really big safety deals going on in every open wheel sport. IndyCar went from an open canopy to kind of a windshield halo type.
But that was before the Hubert accident. That was after Jules Bianchi's fatal crash in 2014.
Yeah, and they started adding multiple things to that. I mean, if we just think about last year, Romain Grosjean, I think his incident was like 21 Gs or something like that. That's something unbelievable.
Yeah, and the halo is the thing that saved his life.
He should have walked away from that. And I think just that that in itself should be seen as a great step forward. But I mean, it's racing. It's not running 5 miles an hour with a football. We're running 150, 200. I think IndyCar now is going 230 with 2-ton machines. There's
Well,
to be.
and Grosjean's case was an example of a reminder of how dangerous this is, just like Brian Newman's was at Daytona last year. And obviously with F1, IndyCar, open wheels like that, it's such a dangerous sport because they're going faster with even less limitations than a stock car and way less protection. So I think even Grosjean spoke to that in some of his interviews that he gave after his, he started his recovery process, just from the safety modifications that they had made in recent years and how much he felt like that had helped him.
And I think that one crash showed a great success in a safety feature and kind of a failure of a safety feature. I mean, he went through the guardrail. He split it in half and went through it. And then that was the main failure. Like, that shouldn't have done that. But one, with the monocoque splitting from the fuel tank and the driver compartment, I don't know if that's an actual safety feature, but
no, it's not supposed to do that.
Well, it works, and it probably kept that from going, entirely through the guardrail and possibly putting the safety crews in danger. And then the halo itself, after the nose had pierced the guardrail, it kind of bent it over the compartment so he could get out. So I think the halo, I know it was a huge deal when it came in. I think everybody now knows how kind of, why it's needed. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, back to Rob's point there. Sorry, to answer your question. Yes, I think it's actually a bit of both, because obviously there has to be a line for the competition. You can't keep extending it. Then also there's that safety feature of you need that specific amount of runoff in order to make it safe. I mean, there was this, I don't know if you know, Russia 2015, Carlos Sainz had a crash at 320 kilometers an hour. That is 200 mile an hour actually. And he hit the wall and he had a 55 G impact.
Wow.
And for context, for those of you who don't know, who don't really understand Gs, a man could die at 9G with a 9G of force. So, yes, I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah, I was trying to, the reason I asked was, like I said, I was trying to liken it to the yellow line rule in NASCAR, because obviously that's always a sense of controversy. I feel like depending on which end of the spectrum you're on, if you're the driver that gets penalized, you don't like it. If you're the driver that, keeps the win because of it, you're all for it. I know that there has been instances in the past, and you guys kind of alluded to it with the favoritism and the governing bodies that be, but I'm a big Dale Jr. fan. Always have been, always will be. Don't know if I'll ever have another favorite driver. Obviously I'm more of an Alex Bowman guy now out of...
I was about to say Alex Bowman now, probably.
Just kind of pass the torch on to him. But I know that Junior got some favorable calls at Superstore.
Oh, yeah.
As to where other drivers did not. And I know that there's such a discussion about how do you enforce that, because in all reality, it is a safety issue. You can't allow people to come from the apron into the corner at 200 miles per hour trying to make a lane. It doesn't make sense. But at the same time, how do you penalize a guy who, when he has his quarter panel there, gets forced below the yellow line? It's such a tough way to come to a happy medium to make. The bottom line is you're never going to make everybody happy, but it's just, how do you enforce it,
For NASCAR road courses, not the hybrid road courses like the Daytona road course or the Charlotte Roval, but our true road courses of Sonoma and Watkins Glen, we've seen guys. I mean, Watkins Glen, you go down in the corner, you miss it. Oh, well, you keep driving. There's another 100 and some odd yards of cement or concrete that you just keep driving and you make a lane. Yeah. And I remember it was Kyle Busch, Marco Sambros, and Brad Keselowski, I think in 2011 or 2012 when they had...
Keselowski put the bumper to Ambrose into, I'm trying to remember what corner it was. Was it turn 10?
Well, they were coming through. I remember the point I bring this up is they were coming through the chicane, that bus stop chicane, and they both missed it. They both
Yes.
the last part of the chicane, and nothing happened.
Yeah.
Kozlowski put the bumper to Ambrose on coming the second to last turn. Ambrose went wide, kept digging, and came back and won the race. So I think just track limits are going to be such. I don't think it's going to get fixed anytime soon. I think if this podcast keeps going for years on end, we'll probably come back to it and be like, well, we're back here again. I think it's just such a topic, and same thing with the yellow line rule. It's just, I hate when any sport becomes, well, did he or did he not? I like clear-cut answers. And
Yeah, it's that politics that Robbie was talking about. Yeah, no, I mean, and to that regard, politics, in my view, has never belonged in sports, and it never should. It's a player sport, and when F1, when it had Bernie Ecclestone, on top, you could see a lot of it was just sort of clear cut. There was, Bernie, as far as I'm concerned, he was no BS guy. And then now we have Liberty Media. And all of a sudden, it's sort of like, oh, no, we can't do that. Oh, no, that would make someone angry, whereas Bernie Ecclestone, for lack of a better term, didn't give a shit,
And I think when it comes to motorsports personalities or any sports personalities, I don't think the viewer enjoys seeing somebody take a stand on something when we know they're making six figures a year and more. Like, there's just no relatability to it.
I think one guy who his reaction to whatever is always perfect is McLaren F1 driver Daniel Ricciardo. A few days ago, actually, he sometimes in an interview he gets asked, "What do you think about this?" and he will give his honest opinion. It's none of this, even if he just it's no drivers, to stay popular with the governing body, they'll say, "Oh, I'm sure they know what they're doing." Whereas Daniel Ricciardo, let's go back to the Grosjean crash quickly. They showed that replay so many times.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, I even posted about it on social media. I said, "What are you doing?" Yeah. Imagine, Romain Grosjean's family. Imagine any F1 driver's family who's just constantly seeing this car go up into flames.
And especially it happens when it just happened. You don't know his condition. You see out of the car, but that could...
you don't know if his body is fully burnt or if he's completely fine. So Daniel Ricciardo's reaction to it was perfect. He said he was disgusted. And I mean, that's the type of attitude drivers should have. They shouldn't have the attitude of, oh, well, I'm sure they know what they're talking about, and play the political game. They should say what they think, and that's what fans want. We don't want the filtered version of people. We want who they actually are.
In the last year's Daytona 500, I think they showed it once, and then they were like, that could be pretty not good, and then they kind of left it alone until we knew he was okay, we knew he was coming back, and now it's kind of in highlight reels, which I don't know if I like that, but I think that's what motorsports is missing. We're missing the personalities that we used to have. Everybody's all upset that the drivers are cookie cutters, and then when Kyle Busch said something, and then they're like, oh, he's just a crybaby. Well, we need to pick a side,
Yeah, Thomas, you kind of spoke on the replays with Grosjean's accident. I remember listening to the interview. I believe ESPN did a piece on him after his recovery process, and listening to the interview and him talking about what his wife told him when he got to call her. Because I know that he said that the first thing the track workers allowed him to do when they, figured out that he was okay. Obviously, he had to have medical attention, but that he wasn't in critical condition, was that the first thing he wanted to do, and the first thing that they made sure that he got to do, was to call his wife to make sure that she knew he was okay. And just hearing that story was incredible, trying to envision it in his eyes how it was happening, because he even admitted that he thought he was going to die in that moment.
I saw a great piece done by, I think he was interviewed by Will Buxton. And, he said, when I was in that car, I was he sort of said to himself, he said, "Oh, I see some orange." And he goes, wait, that's fire. You know, he tries to get out. He hits his head on something. He can't see at this point. He tries to get out the other side. He hits his head on something else. And, he just has to finagle his way through. And he goes, oh, wait, this car's on fire. And what does he have to do? He has to put his hand straight into the fire to grab onto the halo to pull himself out.
Yeah.
So, and imagine an F1 driver who's about to have to get back into a 200 mile an hour overpriced coffin.
Yeah.
I mean, that is basically what they are. Drivers have died in these things. And you know what? If they crash, no one knows what can happen. We try and make sure everyone will be okay. But, you look on TV and you see a car split in half, which it shouldn't do, lodged into guardrail, which it shouldn't do, and is on fire.
Yeah.
And you look at that and you have to go, I have to get back in that now.
I think that's kind of where the mental toughness of drivers comes in. And same thing with Grosjean. He's getting into an IndyCar this year for Rick Ware. And it's like, if it was me, I don't think after going through that, I don't think I would put my family through that, and I wouldn't put myself through that again. Just the opportunity of that.
That's why I will always bang the drum when I hear people say that race car drivers are not athletes. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand the physical toll that it takes on a body during a 500 lap race at Bristol or a 600-mile race at Charlotte or going through a Grand Prix and F1. They don't understand. And then you have to throw in the mental aspect of a guy like Grosjean who gets paid to do this. So he has to figure out, how do I move on and force myself to get back into this car? How can I make myself okay with it? How can I make my family okay with it? How can I trust myself to do this again? And Ryan Newman as well. I think everybody thought Ryan Newman was going to retire after last year, and he's back in a race car doing his thing this year. It's just, there's not many people that can do that. So race car drivers are a special breed, and they deserve way more respect than they get.
Yeah. I think on that note, that should probably be it for that segment. We've kind of gone down the rabbit hole a bit on that one. Yeah. Back to happier things, guys. Come on. It's kind of been a really sad episode already. Starting off sad.
As of right now, in the real world, right now, as recording, it's raining in Martinsville, right? Is it still raining?
I'm 45 minutes from Martinsville, and I'm looking out my window, and it is pouring. So I would guess that if we get a race tonight, it's going to be a late one.
Now
I'm not next to Martinsville, and if I look out my window, yeah, absolutely nothing.
Bring this up is NASCAR ran a wet tire at Martinsville just last week, and do we think that's a good idea? Do we think we should be running Cup cars or any cars on an oval while it's raining?
No.
Why?
I will echo what Thomas says.
My main opinion on it is the fact that, all of a sudden, it's sort of like we've had rain delays. Rain delays have been a part of NASCAR since its inception. And now all of a sudden we're going, wait, what if we do rain tires?
Yes.
It feels as if, and I feel this is as well with an issue, as well with all sports, is that they're trying to make it modern when a lot of people, including myself, we want to make it go back to racing. And I think that these rain tires, because a big thing about NASCAR, if you ask me, is, if it's dry and it starts to rain, obviously not going to shut everything down immediately, is then all of a sudden you have to go, oh, wait, it's about to rain. Let's just try and get up to the front, push, just in case, this race ends because of the rain. So I think we're going to lose that. Whenever we watch a NASCAR race and we see it starting to rain, you see the cars getting loose, and you see the drivers trying to push to the front to get as best finishing position as they possibly can if this race does end.
Yeah.
And then if we add rain tires, that's just going to completely go out the window. They're just going to shove on some rain tires and then go back out. And the speeds are going to be slower. There's going to be more wrecks because obviously it's raining. The track surfaces, if we just think, a lot of tracks, sometimes surfaces can change throughout the racetrack. So it's going to be different. There's going to be big accidents constantly. And I know a lot of fans, whenever we watch a Talladega race, a lot of fans are like waiting for the big one, which we all know is going to happen eventually.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that if we start running into the rain, even with rain tires, it's just going to come wreck after wreck after wreck. And, I come from Canada, where our television, we have a lot less ads than you guys do in the US. And we are very happy about that.
Must be
Right?
nice.
Yeah.
It's great. But whenever there's a caution, we no matter what, we always get an advert. So, it's going to mean that, if there's more wrecks, it means we're going to have to sit through more adverts, which means we're going to be bored more. It's just going to, I don't think it's going to work.
Now,
I think it's going to make it miserable.
so I'm bringing up the Xfinity race. We got through stage 1. We didn't get to halfway. This was going to be a night race, I believe, or a day to night transition race. Now they're running it tomorrow, Sunday, at noon. Now that you've got it as a crew chief, as a driver, as whatever you are, you have to be ready to change everything on the first pit stop just to make it decent during the day. I think with rain tires at short tracks, I don't think we should be running Charlotte in the rain or Daytona at the rain. No way. I think at short tracks like Martinsville, if we bring back, well, they say they're bringing back the fairgrounds, or not the fairgrounds, the
Nashville Super Speedway.
Speedway, maybe those shorter tracks, I would be okay with it just to get to halfway. But I feel as if you aren't getting to halfway and you're getting these races rained out 2 to 3 days, I think there should be an alternative. I think you should be able to at least get to halfway.
I see your point on that, and I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. And I think actually on short tracks, as you said, I think on short tracks it might not be a bad idea to have rain tires. I think that might add an extra element of who can get on the power first. But I definitely think no way in hell they should be running, especially somewhere like Talladega. No way they should be running that in the rain. That is dangerous at that point. That is dangerous because everyone's going to try, because it's a big track which you can run flat out. And people are going to try and run it flat out in the rain, and they're going to hit, and then all of a sudden one part of the track's going to start raining harder, and they're going to lose it, and they're going to hit the wall. And I think at that point it's going to become a safety hazard.
Yeah. And I'm kind of the opposite, to be honest with you. I, in no way, shape, or form, want rain tires on ovals, whether it be short tracks, mile and a half, super speedway. I think that Thomas made a great point earlier. It kind of takes away the underdog factor. We saw Justin Haley a couple years ago in the summer Daytona race. He won that rain shortened race, and we're going to ignore the fact that Kurt Busch was actually leading that race and NASCAR kind of screwed him. We're going to ignore that, but it takes away those factors. I'm trying to remember who it was in Pocono. I guess it was probably, at this point, 4 or 5 years ago. But there was another example of,
Chris Buescher, I think.
Was it Chris Buescher? It might have been, because I believe he was he in the 38 car at that time?
So it was either the 38 or the 34, one of those.
One of the two, yeah. But, it takes that away. And I think at that point, Thomas kind of alluded to it, it becomes a safety issue. And my fear about short tracks isn't about as much getting back on the power. It's more so getting that car stopped. And while you may not be going as fast going into a corner, you think about Martinsville, if you point that car going into the corner and you can't get stopped, you're going headfirst into the wall. So I think they should leave it alone. If you want to try road courses, I'd be okay with that.
Because road courses, yeah.
If you want that road aspect to it, I think you've got to include that. But as a traditional oval person, I understand that NASCAR is trying to get these new fans interested. And I know they want to try these new things to see if they can be done. But I think there are certain things that you can do to make the action increase without doing things like this.
I think to the point of it takes away the underdog aspect, I keep going back to the Daytona road course race where it rained and we did that. Or was it Daytona or Charlotte last year where Ty Dillon just drove through the field and won a stage because he played.
I believe it was the Roval.
And it started to rain and he went on the wet tires and drove through the field. And I think there's a certain aspect of the underdog factor that will still be left if we manage to go on to the wet tires during the short track. But I think the safety part of it, they're going to have to find a way to get them stopped or get them going or be able to steer. But I think it's doable. I think the people at NASCAR are very smart and they'll be able to manage it somehow. I am not going to give my full opinion until I see it play out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, like any good thing, we can't just judge it based on what we think it's going to be. We have to have proof,
But now,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Brockton. I know it probably sounds like I'm saying no to absolutely all of NASCAR's ideas, and I don't mean to sound like that. It's just I think we could do it differently. I was okay with trying out Bristol Dirt, but do I think it should have been a points race in a traditional asphalt oval series? No, it shouldn't have been. I don't understand why we could have made that the all-star race.
I think we should have made an exhibition race, even like just a hey.
Exactly.
The thing is, I don't think they should have made it mandatory for all teams to attend.
Yes.
But I think they should have been like, hey, this is something we're thinking about doing. Why don't you guys come down here? You know what? That's the thing. I don't know if you guys know who Slap Shoes is.
Yes, I do.
Yes, he made in one of his calendar thing that he said, which he wanted to, he made the new calendar for it. He said, hey, why don't we bring back midweek NASCAR? I don't know off the top of my head what track is nearest to Bristol. Someone wants to tell me what that is. If they can have, a race if they can have a race at that track, and they go to Bristol midweek, just a day, you turn up and then you just go, no practice, no qualifying, pull it out of a hat and just go have fun. And then the next Sunday you're back at racing in a proper thing. And that way
Dover would probably be my most similar track, just because I think it's a bigger version of Bristol with the high banking, high speeds.
Is it the closest though? No, it can't be closest.
No. Geographically closest?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. I'm trying to think of what the closest to Bristol would be. I think you're probably looking at either Richmond or Charlotte, one of the two.
Well, actually, at that point, that would be brilliant, because if you can have the Charlotte race where most teams are based, and you go to Bristol, and you go to wherever you just said, whatever track you just said is
Richmond or Charlotte.
Richmond, thank you.
Okay.
So you have the Charlotte race, and then midweek you go to Bristol, and then you finish off the week at Richmond. I think that could be brilliant, because then it brings new NASCAR fans in, because all of a sudden it's not a weekend sport and you have 3 races in the same week.
Yeah, I can see that.
It could be something that could rejuvenate the sport almost.
I mean, I think I go more towards the short tracks. I think short tracks would be great. I think for that exhibition week or exhibition weekend, we should just go off into like Bowman Gray if they
yes Bowman Gray Stadium. I want to see that. Bring back the Madhouse.
Just something ridiculous, because I mean, why not? We're trying stuff out, so I think we should go to a small venue and rip around every once in a while, and just it brings your local and then your nationwide fans to a track that isn't as well known, or a track that's a little more well known but needs to be more known to keep them alive. Because
and that's the thing. If you ask me, a great track for racing in NASCAR would be somewhere like Gilles Villeneuve, and I'm not just saying that because I can pretty much see it from my house. That's an exaggeration, but it's a stone throw away from my house. It's a good track. It's a road course. It's a great city. And you know what? I think they should start thinking about experimenting outside of the box, as Brock was saying. Bring back some places like the Madhouse. Try and bring back North Wilkesboro, because for the heaven's sakes, we've been asking for it for years.
Yes.
And just throw in some wild card events, tracks that no one's ever heard of.
Yeah.
Some local, some local short quarter-mile track. You do some heat races around there, and you have a 16-car final. Just something random.
And
because we want that.
I lived in Colorado for a while, and we would go from Colorado Springs to Pueblo, and we would pass Pikes Peak International every time, and it's just vacant, and they still run some races. But I think bringing NASCAR back to Colorado would be cool. Going to Canada, Montreal, Gilles Villeneuve, or whatever it is.
Gilles Villeneuve, yeah. I speak French.
I don't. Just doing some random races every once in a while. Random isn't the right word, but I want
outside of the box.
Yeah.
Come back to the rain tires. If iRacing were to make rain a thing, in whatever update, whenever.
Man, I think we're a decade off that at this rate.
Oh yeah, but do you think it would be a good idea for them to put racing in the rain, or do we think that just keep it out of iRacing?
Now, I think
Yeah.
that ovals, no, because let's be completely honest here. Most of the caliber in iRacing, they struggle to keep it in a straight line at somewhere like Darlington.
Correct. Yes.
So and that's not a track which is terribly baffling.
Yeah.
So then to add rain in on ovals, no, please, just don't. But on road courses, I say yes, because road courses in the rain is it's something else. It's unbelievable. And add like a randomness factor in there where you can set up a race, or in the 24-hour races, say 24 hours of Le Mans, when they eventually bring that back, because we all know they will. Add like a 50% rain factor. It could start in the dry, midway through it could rain like hell, and in the end it could be dry again. Yes,
Well,
I think
they give you the option to do the ongoing weather variations. There's got to be a way to add that in. And, we see tracks like, I don't know if you've ever tried to load up a session, but if you have previously set up a session at 1.5 miles like Charlotte and you did a night race, if you're setting up the next session and you go to Talladega, it reminds you like, hey, there are no lights at this track. Like this time of day, it may not be available. So while I don't know a lot about programming or coding, there's got to be a way that they can, program it to have rain accessible on road courses, certain road tracks, or even with certain cars on the service, and not with others.
And I think just not racing for the oval side, not racing on the rain, but having that possibility of rain, like Thomas was mentioning, to get to halfway with possibility of rain. If we made a session in July at Daytona, there's going to be a percentage of rain, and you got to get to the front. I think that would add a certain just more on edge. And if you don't get halfway through, you got to go into rain delay. And I think that would be a cool act of realism, because, you can select a month, year, etc. of when that session takes place. And if you set it for April in Michigan or something, and it rains, well, that's how it's going to run. And I think that would be a cool aspect to have a rain delay. It would be a pain in the butt eventually, but I think it would be kind of cool to have the get to halfway or just settle in and get ready for a rain delay type deal.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead, Thomas.
I was just saying, I think that would be a pretty nice place to end it for this first episode.
Yeah.
I think, that's good. We've given our opinions on that. And I think that'd be a nice, everyone listening in at home, definitely think about it. What would be your opinion on it? And if you can find some way to contact us, or probably Brock is going to set up a 15th Instagram account, we'd be happy to hear your thoughts on it. Definitely, but I think that'd be a good place to end it for today.
Yeah, and I would just like to extend my thanks to you guys for coming on the show. This is going to be the main cast of the Running Out of Talent podcast presented by the SMB Cup Series. I would also like to thank everybody for watching.
Thank you, Brockton. I'm excited to do this podcast with you guys. I'm looking forward to getting to dive more into esports. One thing that I do want to touch on that Brockton kind of brought up was the league that I co-own, the SMB Cup Series. We are currently open to sponsors. So if you are listening to this podcast and you are someone who's trying to break into the sim racing world, whether it be a product you have or just trying to learn the industry, please feel free to reach out. We are a broadcasted league on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. We have many sponsorship packages available, ranging anywhere from $200 to, I believe, $800. So if you are in that price range and you feel like this would be a good opportunity for you, please feel free to reach out. Our contact info is smbcupseries@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook at SMB Cup Series, as well as an Instagram page that I believe is Shake and Bake Cup Series.
Yeah, well, on that note, I thank you guys for helping us out with this. It's been absolutely brilliant with this first episode, and thank you to everyone listening or watching at home, both either on your listening device of choice or on YouTube, because I believe this will be on YouTube as well. And on that note, this has been the Running Out of Talent Talent podcast presented by S&B Cup Series. And we'll see you all next time. Have a good one, everyone.